Hello everybody, welcome back. Max here, as usual. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me again. Today we are diving into chapter 10.1, discussions about time and matter. This is I call it an intermediary chapter that doesn't follow any specific timeline. We've done that before, and we do this in order to create a stage for further issues ahead. Okay? So this one goes into the quantum realm and describes what our reality, matter, and time actually is. And for nerds like me, these are very fascinating topics. Before we do that, however, we do the usual housekeeping items here. The Amazon page where you can find the book. Please do support me there. Please find me on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Brighteon. Please do give me likes and shares, because I need it in order to spread the word to as many people as possible. Now let's get into this. Before we proceed to the next chapter with more crazy talk, we need to set the stage on a few issues that lay the groundwork for what I am about to describe later. We start by talking about time. Time is extremely important in our perception of reality, but we really never stop and think about what it really is, where it comes from, how it is really measured, and what its measurement is based upon. I'll show you an interesting little clip here that would provide some context. Here we go.
Historical facts that will distort your perception of time. The Cowboy era and the Victorian era took place at the same time. Machu Picchu and the Sistine Chapel were built just 33 years apart. Abraham Lincoln and the Samurai era took place at the same time. There were still woolly mammoths roaming the earth when the Great Pyramids were under construction. Cleopatra was alive closer in time to us today than she was to the pyramids' construction. The city of London is 1,500 years older than Genghis Khan. The Ottoman Empire was still around when Walt Disney released his first cartoons. The Eastern Roman Empire fell just 39 years before Columbus discovered the Americas. Saturn's rings did not even exist when the Stegosaurus was roaming the earth.
How about that? I guess nobody ever heard that before, but it appears to be true. Now, were you aware that in this realm we used to have a 13-month calendar? In 1582, this all changed when we moved to the Julian calendar. I apologize, we moved from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar by Pope Gregory XIII. There are still different calendars in our realm, such as the Chinese one that follows the moon cycles, and the Ethiopian calendar that maintained the Julian calendar until today, but in a modified manner. In Thailand is the year 2567, because it's 543 years ahead of us. The 13-month calendar was based on the cycles of the year. Spring was the beginning of the year, when vegetation came back, a restart of the natural cycle. New Year's Day was April 1st. No wonder the Khazarian mafia controllers calls it Fool's Day, April 1st that is. It is for a reason. They're having a laugh at our expense. Here I show you an interesting little Twitter thing again. It says, at the crossroads of the millennium, New Year, April Fool's Day or April's Fool's Day, in 1583 it was decided to move the New Year celebration to January 1st instead of April 1. People refused to accept the new law and continued to celebrate the beginning of the new year in the spring. Others began to joke that people had fun on the wrong day and called the day itself Joke Day. A day when we use harmless jokes and pranks and laugh sweetly at our own and others' expense. That's April Fool's Day for you. Now you see, on a 13-month calendar, each month would have exactly 28 days. Each month would start on a Monday. Sunday will be the last day of each month. You ask, where would the 13th month be? I'm happy you asked. It would be called Sol, and it has been inserted between June and July. One day a year would be leftover day. That would be the New Year's Day, and is not counted. Look at your screen. That's exactly what it looks like. Every month has 28 days. The month of Sol is inserted there between June and July. And this cycle works perfectly. Just like the flat Earth, I might add. Now you say, this must be conspiracy, this must be craziness. What are you talking about, Max? No, I'm just stating the fact. This is a newspaper article from back in the day. 13 months in 1928 describes exactly the same calendar that I just showed you. The extra month, Sol, is between June and July. Every month has 28 days. Now, another hero of mine, David Lester Strait, also came to this conclusion and presents it in a very, very good way. Now, David Lester Strait, unfortunately, is not with us anymore because he passed away in 2024. And guess on what day? April 1st. He died of cancer in 2024 on April 1st. Ironic, isn't it? Let me play this clip for you.
Our calendar is not quite right. We're supposed to have 13 months of 28 days, with one day, the day of resurrection, Easter, as a neutral day. That's our 365 days. We've actually got 13 constellations, not 12. This same calendar is very close to the Mayan calendar, but it's also very close to several ancient Sanskrit calendars. What does sept mean? Seven. I thought that was the 9th month. What does oct mean? What does nov mean? What does dec mean? It's supposed to be the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th month. Jan is 11. Feb is 12. March is 13. April is our first month. Babies are born in the spring, the 1st of April, Easter. This is the start of our new year. This is the start of spring when the flowers start coming up, the grass starts coming up, the trees start leafing out, the babies are born. That's the first day. Our neutral day, day one, the day we rest and celebrate the resurrection, the new beginning, the beginning of Christ. April is month 1. And then we lost a month in there. Where is it? What's it called? We know what it's called. I'm not going to reveal it yet, but we know what it's called. But this is the true calendar. The Gregorian calendar is SMU, shit made up by man. To keep us out of our natural cycles. We all vibrate at one of 3 frequencies. Did you know that? Okay. 432 hertz is the God frequency. That's the celestial frequency. And we have a telestial and a terrestrial frequency. Darn right. She says that why when people are true, we can feel it and we can sense it. We know that it's right. You know, we don't even have to research it. We know, we can feel it. We feel it in our bodies and our spirits and our souls, and we know it's right.
By the way, 528 hertz is the love vibration or the DNA healing vibration.
By the way, 528 and 633 and 432 are our three frequencies, okay? So it depends on whether you're celestial, telestial, or terrestrial. That's 60. 60. Well, what is, yeah, 5G. What is our clocks been running at? 60. All of our electricity, 60. We've been under Satan for a long time. This is a satanic frequency. It's really celestial, telestial, and terrestrial, believe it or not. Our church teaches that as 3 degrees of heaven, but it's really our three frequencies. Our souls are energy. The energy holds our minerals together, which is our bodies. Our bodies are nothing more than the dust of the earth, held together by energy, by our.
So that's David Lester Straight. May he rest in peace. I have been very, very inspired by the talks of this man, and I miss him tremendously. Now, when the Gregorian calendar was implemented, they stole 10 days from us. The 10 days of darkness, they are called. This is very mystical. And of course, being the nerd I am, I cannot stay away from this kind of topics. Here on the screen, you see the 10 days of darkness. In 1582, 10 days, October 5 through October 14th, were erased from time with the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. We do not celebrate Christmas at the correct time. New Year is not the New Year. Easter is not Easter. I don't celebrate New Year anymore, I may tell you. I do not give any attention whatsoever to Christmas. I do it on Fool's Day, 1st of April, and all my friends think I'm nuts. Okay, so be it. I celebrate the beginning, not the end. And let's not even discuss Halloween. That is a purely satanic ritual in itself, that we're all celebrating and feeding energy into. Are you aware that the period just before Halloween is the peak of child disappearances during the year? Every single year. Why do we think that is? Why would we give energy and intention on something that is fake and not true? Imagine all the intention that these festivals produce in terms of collective consciousness, especially where the intention is guided to something like fake Santa Claus or a bunny rabbit for Easter. What does that create exactly? Let me give you a quick example of what collective consciousness and manifestation can do. An experiment was performed in a stadium in Chicago many years ago. Some 8,000 meditation experts were gathered and asked to meditate on peace collectively and at the same time. What happened was that crime in the city decreased immediately by 75%. Since then, many such experiments has been performed with astonishing results. This is absolutely amazing, isn't it? Now I will show you how this works in this chapter, explained by a hero of mine later on. Now back to the calendar and how it works. There are 13 moon cycles, but only 12 months. There are 13 zodiacs. Surprised? But there are only 12 months. Are there supposed to be 13 hours on our clocks too? I have no idea. But it does rhyme with what I'm saying. Here I will prove it to you. It says on the screen, the 12 zodiac signs are named after the 12 constellations in the zodiac family. Did you know, however, that there are 13 constellations in the zodiac family? The 13th constellation, Ophiuchus, complicated name, the snake bearer, is often left out of the 12 zodiac signs, but still belongs to the zodiac constellation. So there you have it. Now, let me play you another couple of video clips explaining the matter, back to back.
There's 13 per year. So when you think of your calendar and you have 12 months, where is the missing month? Because you have 13 moon cycles per year, so where is the missing month? It's something we don't think about. You have 13 28-day moon cycles, but you only have 12 months in a year. And this is why when I say connecting to the moon energy, you can see that the same cycle happens every single time. So where is that month that we're missing? Because if we're always missing basically a month all the time, then that would mean our timeline is very incorrect, or our calendar is very incorrect as well. This is where it gets crazy. You know, someone could say, well, today is 2023. According to who? Who told you we're in 2023? You know, and as somebody just said, we switched to the Gregorian calendar and we messed up all our cycles. Yes, we did. And that's the thing. We don't even know what day or year we are in. And if you create this confusion, you can then control the people because they start to believe, well, I'm in 2023. What happens if we're in like 5046? And then you sit there and you think you're still driving a car with 20 miles to the gallon in 5046. As we're just trucking along, still with the same technology as 1902. But, you know, now it's 2023 and we got 21 miles to the gallon. We're just getting around and going around. But with the whole calendar thing, you know, we have to.
You've seen this 13-month calendar? This 1775 Bible shows us that the first day of the week was a Sunday, March was the first month of the year, not January, and that a full year consisted of 13 months opposed to our current 12. So why has everything changed? And who decided to change the months around? Many believe that it was actually to put us out of the rhythm that was so ingrained into our culture, to disrupt the peace and harmony. Think about it if this is true. It is very possible that the holidays we celebrate today and base off of ancient traditions are aligned with a completely different rhythm. Does it not take away the true meaning of the day, specifically religious holidays such as Christmas or Easter? Countries like Ethiopia have stuck to the 13-month calendar, and while we celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December, Ethiopia doesn't celebrate until the 7th of January. This is not the first instance of our calendars and timelines being messed around with, and there is a history of rulers who have decided to change the dates and times for their own benefit. So who knows where we actually are on the time spectrum, if time is actually real?
We can assume that all of this was done to put us off balance with the natural cycles of the universe. And this is where it gets really interesting. Now, the coolest quantum physicist in the world, in my view, is a guy called Nassim Haramein. He explains it absolutely beautifully in this interview. That is available for full download in the book, by the way. He explains that the ether that we touched on massively before, is the zero-point energy field that holds all information of the universe. Yes, the universe. That this ether holds enough energy to supply us for millions of years from just 1 cubic centimeter of ether, as I said before. He actually confirms it in this video. So let's play that for you. And I'll see you on the other side.
First question, Nassim, and I guess it's more really of a subject matter I'd like you to talk about. You focus a lot on connection, on how when you study the universe, you find that everyone, every atom, every soul, every human being, every plant, we're all connected. Let's start by talking about connection.
Right. Well, you know, it came from a more philosophical an intuitive sense when I was younger, that I had in school these thoughts because I didn't pay attention much to what was going on up front. I commonly was thinking about all kinds of other things, and I started to feel like the space between things may not be empty. You know, we only experience a very small part of what's going on in the space. There's all kinds of electromagnetic fields, there's all kinds of stuff that's happening in the space that we don't experience directly. And I started to think maybe the space between things is not empty, but it's full and it connects all things. But eventually, as I studied physics and I understood some of the basis of quantum field theory, I realized that actually we had found that the space is not empty at all, but full of energy. And eventually I wrote equations, I wrote physics on the space. I described the space. And when I wrote these physics, it outputted very fundamental constants in physics, like the mass of particles and their radius and the structure of galaxies and the structure of the universe and all these things. And as I wrote these mathematics, something remarkable happened. Something I instinctively had come up with when I was young, but that just came out in the mathematics just beautifully. And that is that all the information of every other particles in the universe, every atom in the universe, seems to be present holographically in each atom, which connects them all through this wormhole network in the structure of space, like an information highway that is transferring information at very, very high bug rate, and that permits systems to self-organize. So it's really at the deep level that I see the connection between all things, not in only a philosophical way, but actually writing physics on it actually works.
And this connection is the basis for a lot of your research. And the research you're doing right now is astonishing, because if Nassim's research is able to prove some of the things he's talking about, it has huge implications for humanity. For example, warp drives. For example, the ability to control gravity, to, within the next 75 years, be able to go on a family vacation to Jupiter and back in record time by leveraging the control of gravity and wormholes. So let's talk about that. What are you researching right now?
Well, actually, to go to Jupiter, you won't need a wormhole with a gravitational drive. But if you want to go to Alpha Centauri, you'll need one. Yes, I'm working on these things because not only that, you know, when you calculate the amount of energy, obviously, if everything is connected through this wormhole structure, the micro wormhole at the quantum level, which I'll present this tomorrow, the energy level in a centimeter cube of space is enormous. And if we extracted just a billionth of a percent of the energy that's in a centimeter cube of space in the structure of space-time, we could run the world for millions of years.
So you're saying that in the centimeter cube of space, right, there's an energy, and I believe you refer to it, or people commonly call it zero-point energy.
Yes,
and
that was Einstein.
If we can learn to extract that,
right,
we can run humanity for millions of years. That's unlimited energy.
Exactly, and it's actually, according to what I found, it's actually the energy that runs reality, that runs the world. And eventually I wrote papers that advanced these mathematics into actually that's the energy that makes you a conscious human being.
He explains that this ether is what holds the entire universe together, and is what creates consciousness. Pretty remarkable. Let's listen.
Actually organize a system to eventually arrive to a system that's complex enough to become self-aware.
That's interesting. So are you saying that zero-point energy has a tangible relationship to consciousness?
Yes, absolutely. According to what I found, and I want to precisely mean what I found. What I mean by what I found is that when I wrote these mathematics and I extracted these masses and these radiuses, I was able to make predictions, very important prediction about the nuclei of atom that was confirmed in accelerators in Switzerland. And my solution is the most precise solution on Earth today from theoretical tenant. The standard model is off by 4%, which is like, you know, a universe away in quantum theory. So what I'm saying to you today is not just based on nice mathematics that may be too complex for you to understand, or philosophy. It's actually now confirmed in experimental studies.
That's incredible. Now, some scientists have said you deserve a Nobel Prize. Some scientists have said this is hogwash.
Yes.
How do you deal with that sort of huge
Dichotomy.
polarization
Yes.
in
Well, you know, I cry and I laugh. I think it's always difficult to make a change. You know, we can see that. I don't know about you, but in my life, you know, every large changes are difficult.
But what I appreciate about you is that every great innovator was called a quack at some point, including Tesla, right?
Yes.
But what I appreciate about
And
you is
Einstein.
that, yes, and Einstein.
Yeah.
What I appreciate about you is that you're not just looking at matter and energy, but you're looking at matter, energy, and consciousness and how they all interrelate.
Right, and you know, it's like, and as you find these pieces, as you find these little morsel of information across the physics, you end up with stuff in chemistry, and you end up with stuff with biology, and you end up with, you know, and it just built, because if you have the correct foundation, you see, humans make these divisions in science. You know, we call this chemistry, and we call this physics, and we call this, you know, biology and all this. But the universe doesn't do that. You know, just like the universe doesn't make lines on the planet and say, this is this country and this is this country, right? And so basically, the universe must be unified, since it produces all this amazing biostructure that we call our reality, from the physics all the way to consciousness. And so when you start to find something, and that's my belief, when you start to find something that's very deep, fundamental at the truth of reality, then all this starts to unravel, and that's what I think is happening now.
So the question is, what then is consciousness? We're using that word a lot.
Yes.
And you said that consciousness is all around us. It's related to the 0-point field.
Correct.
What is consciousness to you?
Right, it's an important question, because it's becoming more and more, you know, that when I started to give talks in physics conferences in the 90s, in the early 90s, mid-90s, if you said the C word, it was like automatic dismissal. You were asked to leave, right? That was like, you could say the F word, but you could not say the C word, and so it was very difficult at the time. You can imagine, but now it's completely flipped around. Like the cool thing for physicists, especially after they retired, is to work on what is the source of consciousness and how did consciousness occur, and you know, and often people talk about, you know, this new idea that consciousness may be at the base of reality. And it's in many cases not very helpful, because the word consciousness is used as if you said God is the base of reality. You still haven't told me anything about what that is, right? If you say consciousness, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, if you look at definitions of consciousness, it's not very useful neither. It says it's something that has to do with self-awareness, right? Becoming self-aware. What's important in that self-awareness understanding is that there's something that resembles a feedback, right? You knowing you are you. And as I wrote the physics that describe these fundamental laws, these fundamental principles of physics, I realized that the information, and it was already in the philosophy that I had developed, but it showed up in the equation, that the information is circulating in feed-forward feedback structures. And so that you can think of this Planck field, which is an electromagnetic field, this 0-point energy field, as bits of information. And this is exactly how I wrote the equation. That's why it's a holographic equation. And you can think of the bits being exchanged between the field and the surface and the interior of particles. And as you write the equations for this, it starts to make, it starts to look a lot like a feedback structure of information through the universal network.
So in other words, the universe is feeding information to itself.
Exactly, and that's how it grows, and that's how it becomes more and more complex and highly organized.
So the universe is becoming more conscious as time goes on.
Exactly, it's getting wiser.
The universe is getting wiser and wiser.
Yes.
Right? But the other
Hopefully.
thing is,
So what Nassim explains here is that he explains how we physically can tap into this consciousness. And if that is the case, it's not hard to understand how the meditators I mentioned before could impact their surroundings in such a profound manner. They are modifying the ether, tapping into it, and implanting a new memory in the system, thus changing the outcome of time. Let's move on.
some questions. This particular question is from a 14-year-old girl who's in the room, Tamara. Tamara, you want to stand and just wave to the audience?
Hi. Thanks for being here.
So Tamara's question. Tamara, did you pay attention to science in school? Yeah. Okay, so Tamara is from Belarus.
Good girl.
And her question is this. If there's consciousness all around us...
Don't believe everything they tell you, though.
Is there a way we can tap into this consciousness? And is that what intuition is?
Oh, that's a good question. So that's what I was saying earlier, is like, you're making a distinction between you and consciousness, and there's none. You are tapping. Your consciousness, what you call your self-awareness, your consciousness is the tap. You're tapped already. But you can increase the amount of information flow. You can increase your influence on the structure of space. I call it, vacuum engineering. You can create a larger tap to have a larger influence on the structure of space if you become aware that you have that ability, that you can connect with the space. So how would you do that? Well, the equation says that every proton in the nuclei of every one of your atoms, and you're made out of 100 trillion cells, each cell is made of 100 trillion atoms. So there's a lot of those little guys, okay? It's very advanced, it's very complex, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. Like there's a miracle happening every billionth of a second in your body. There's a billion chemical change occurring every second. I mean, a million cell division every second. It's remarkable. So all this is happening, right? And the equation says that each proton is connected to all other protons in the universe, that all the information in the universe is present in each one of them. So if you actually want to know about the universe, where do you go? Inside yourself, right? So we are constantly putting our attention outside ourselves because that's what we learn to do. But there's other techniques to help you bring your consciousness inside yourself, right? And if you do that, you can get more and more conscious of the deeper layers of your existence, because you think of yourself as one thing, but you're made of all these billion trillions of things. And you become aware of them, you go deeper and deeper in them. Eventually you can get deeper level of information about the rest of the universe, about your consciousness, about how you are, like the root of you, right? Which is much deeper than the personality and everything else maybe that you've developed throughout the years. Does that?
So, if we're all connected to the universe in a quantum entanglement wormhole dynamic, and we actually create our own reality through our actions and our collective memory, imagine how off balance we must be due to the calendar change that we have been subjected to. Is it starting to make sense to you as to the enormity of this problem? Another important aspect of this quantum entanglement is the creation of matter. We have always assumed that matter, may it be a stone, water, or a human, is just material. however that is composed. I will not get too technical, but here's the short explanation. In quantum physics, this is not at all the case. We are being constantly destroyed and reassembled 32 trillion times a second, over and over again. This has been proven, and Nassim mentions it in this clip I'm about to play you. The implications of this discovery are immeasurable, and this information would allow humanity to change forever if we can control and manipulate this procedure. So let me play you that right here.
It's only moving at that velocity you calculated in high school relative to you. But relative to the universe, what is the universe doing when it's moving then? What is movement? What is that, right? Well, the only conclusion you can come to is that your hand is undoing itself, redoing itself, undoing itself, redoing itself. So it's your hand is your hand, and then it's the whole, and then it's your hand, and then it's a whole, and then it's your hand, then it's the whole. And it's happening at frames of Planck time, so it's happening really, really fast. Just like a movie is frames that appears to produce linear motion, but is actually frames, that are being passed by a light at speed high enough that you don't see the discontinuity.
So, from that point of view, our bodies are deconstructing and reconstructing itself at Planck second intervals across the universe, across millions of miles.
Yeah, imagine that concept. Like, imagine that's occurring at the Planck scale, right? Very, very, very fast. And then imagine the dampening of that same undoing and redoing itself happening at a much larger scale, like biology. You're doing that right now. Fission, like a month ago, is not the same guy. Like, you've redone your liver, you've redone your blood a whole bunch of times, you've redone your skin, and within 3 years you pretty well redone the whole thing. Right? So you're actually redoing and undoing and redoing yourself like every second as well.
Which opens up this question, and this is the final question. This is from one of our viewers on Facebook.
I just want to finish the analogy. So now you can imagine, if I get this undoing, redoing thing, first of all, I can redo myself a little different if I want to be different. But I can undo my hand there and redo it there without doing all the points in between.
Mm-hmm.
See? Space travel across the universe.
Mind blown. So,
isn't that just incredible what he just said? He mentions two things that I consider essential, and this is the main reason for this chapter alone. That we are indeed doing and redoing ourselves in Planck seconds, which is really, really, really fast. And if you caught it, he said you could choose to redo himself or yourself a little differently each time. So he just described space travel, teletransportation through quantum technology, Star Trek, teleportation. Okay? Now, let me show you how that would look like in this little graph that I created to explain it a little bit easier. If you look at your screen, you will see the yellow line is linear space-time or memory. Now this is the space in linear time where we go into meditation. That is the gap between these lines. Every black line is creation. The gap is uncreation. So you exist, you don't exist, you exist, you don't exist. Okay? Now this gap in between is where we manifest, modify, and change our reality. This is also where we can choose to recreate our bodies with the help of technology. This space, this empty space, contains the memory of everything. So if it once existed, it has a quantum memory, and it can be extracted. So we recreate ourselves 34 trillion times a second. If we can access that gap of nothingness, of no time, no space, we are inside the quantum field. Now, I have seen during my studies several testimonials from various whistleblowers that the technology to access this 0 point already exists and has been around for some time in the dark black military projects. Only the Khazarian mafia has access to it. What a surprise. There are two technologies in particular that are really, really interesting. One of them is what they call medbeds. This is a technology that is able to read your body on a molecular level, track back your genome, and re-establish your body into its ultimate state. It also works with a 0 point, accessing the memory bank in the ether to pick up the memory of what you were. It can regrow limbs, organs, and regress you in time up to 30 years at a time. This can be done only 3 times though, but 90 years extra life is a rather good start, I would argue. Of course, I do not know this to be true, absolutely not. But it is what Nassim is saying, and I believe him. This would be very much possible in my view. The second technology is just as miraculous in itself. It's something called a replicator. This machine also accesses the 0 point memory bank and is able to extract and replicate any object that is accessible. A pair of underwear, a suit, a car, a hamburger, anything. Basically anything that has existed in the past and when created has been assigned a quantum signature and memory. Imagine the implications of this technology. It would change the world forever. Money and currencies would become obsolete. Food would be abundant. Poverty would be gone. Humanity could focus on other things, such as new technology, spirituality, and other important issues instead of slaving away on the plantation of Slavelandia in which we find ourselves today. All we would have to do is work in research and development and creating new items, and once it's been created, it can always be replicated forever, free of charge. The video that I'm about to show you now explains more on this topic, and it's not that far-fetched in my view, knowing what I know today. I'll see you on the other side.
In the creative society, a new technology such as a replicator will be available to all people. A replicator is not science fiction, it's a device that works according to the laws of physics. Let's take a lobster, a t-shirt, or a phone, for example. In appearance, they are completely different, but if we look at them on a micro level, we'll see that they are made up of the same elementary particles. Only their number is different, and they are arranged in a different way. These particles form atoms, and atoms form molecules. Due to a given combination of these elementary particles, we get either a lobster, or a t-shirt, or a phone. The working principle of the replicator is basically to assemble the elementary particles in the proper combination to get what we need. A hot breakfast, or fashionable trousers. Moreover, they are brand new, already ironed, and of the highest quality. Everything depends on the program you've set up. For example, in order for a new gadget to appear in a replicator, you need 3 components: energy, particles from which the object will be created, the information about the sequence of their assembly. Energy has been successfully used by humanity for a long time, and the creative society will be able to use both new and long-discovered types of energy. Information about an object will be received by scanning the desired objects and uploaded into the replicator. A similar principle has already been implemented in beverage molecular printing technology. Any beverage is printed directly from molecules. The main thing is to have the appropriate amount of particles from which the object we need will be materialized. To do this, we need a utilizer. Unnecessary things will be put in it to be decomposed into elementary particles and placed into cartridges. And the replicator will create whatever you need with the use of the cartridges and information, so you dispose of the garbage and get everything you want. Having a utilizer, you will no longer need to wash the dishes. Just put in it dirty plates, a tablecloth with crumbs, and you're done. A replicator and a utilizer are devices about the size of your microwave or a small cupboard. The magnetic power inside them will help rearrange the particles according to a given combination. In milliseconds and at any moment, you get everything you need and completely free of charge, without harm to your health or the planet's ecology. A replicator will not only benefit every person, it will also benefit the entire planet. For example, to enjoy a delicious, fresh bun at breakfast today, a whole chain of complex production processes must occur. You need to plow a field, and you need a tractor for this. To produce a tractor and all its component parts, we have to build different factories. And all these factories emit tons of poisonous gases, whereas their wastewater contains dangerous chemical compounds. We also need raw materials that people extract from quarries and mines. To grow wheat, we need pesticides and chemical fertilizers, which poison the soil and the crops. Delivery of everything we need requires a huge expense, fuel and lubricants. We need transport, trucks, ships, and trains. Look how much damage an ordinary bun does to the environment. And the same story is in every manufacturing sector. In the creative society, all these destructive to the environment processes will disappear, as everyone will have a replicator at hand. Just press the button and here's a bun for you to eat. Everything will be enough for everyone anywhere on the planet. We'll be able to cleanse the air, the earth, and the ocean of all dangerous radioactive pollution. Garbage will become the most valuable resource, that is, a source of elementary particles for creating new, beautiful things. The creative society is a world where you will enjoy the most advanced technology and your life will be financially independent, comfortable, and prosperous.
Well, there you have it, folks. This is how we get out of the Khazarian mafia Babylonian slave system. And if this technology actually does exist, we are very close to our salvation, in my view. Now, I listened some time ago to a man who worked in Area 51 in Nevada, US, who said that the food in the canteen only used replicators. He just had to think of the food that he wanted from his own memory, and it just appeared. Imagine having the best steak that you had 10 years ago, anytime you wish. If it existed, it can be reproduced. Not to mention the zero-point energy production from the ether that I have already mentioned many times. That alone will change the world in ways we can't even fathom. So how to access this tech, you ask? Well, we use quantum computers, as the ones you see on your screen. And they do exist. Here is two images of two separate ones. They're already being produced, and they work so fast and interdimensionally that they can achieve computations needed to achieve what I have described. They have... Star Trek is not that far away after all. And we now can discuss that and our friends from outer space, who's coming here to visit us in this realm that we affectionately called extraterrestrial. They have all the technologies that I describe here, completely under control, and that is why the Khazarian mafia keeps this such a secret for so long. Now, these technologies are as real as can be, and I will start describing them in the next chapter. Now, the next chapter is called Chapter 11.1, The Extraterrestrial Perspective. What do we really know? That will be another doozy for you. Here we talk about our friends, the aliens. And I can't wait for that. So said that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for me today. I hope I did inspire you a little bit and open some minds to these possibilities. So that's all for me today. Max out, and peace to you all.